What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball. And more importantly, welcome back to our season preview series, the series where we're going to break down all 30 NBA teams before the start of the regular season. In this series, we go extremely in-depth. We're going to talk about everything from rotations, depth charts, what's their salary cap situation look like, what kind of draft assets do they have, what did their offseason look like, trade ideas, everything that you need to be ready for the start of the regular season. In this video, we've got the Milwaukee Bucks. This should be a really interesting one. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of comments about it. But anyway, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment on my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. Alrighty, let's get into it. Alrighty, y'all. As you can see, there is a lot to get to as always, but that's why we've got the season preview spreadsheet. These are spreadsheets that I build to kind of help me articulate the story of these videos a little bit more, add some visuals and some context behind things. If you want access to the spreadsheet, it's a pretty simple process. All you have to do is leave me like a comment or something saying like, hey, I'd like access to the spreadsheet. From there, I'll leave you a link to join my Discord. You can also find that in the description of all my videos, but hop on the Discord, find me on there, shoot me a DM being like, hey, I was hoping I could get the spreadsheet or whatever. I give you the spreadsheet. It's a really simple process that way. I get comments on my videos. You get a spreadsheet that's fun to interact with. We'll comment on whatever you make and post on the Discord. But yeah, you guys should join the Discord at the very least. It's a fun place. We're talking there every single day. But anyway, let's talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. You know, I always start off a lot of these videos by saying teams had an interesting season last year because I find like most teams pretty interesting. At the end of the day, I'm just a basketball fanatic, right? It's what I like. But the Bucks had an interesting season last year. I mean, we started off by them trading Drew Holiday, right? Which was like, now we say that and we're like, oh my gosh, they traded Drew Holiday, right? But they did get Damian Lillard. Like, we all forget how crazy that was that Damian Lillard joined Giannis Antetokounmpo on the same basketball team. We were like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, you're gonna miss Drew's defense, and they did, but like, you got Damian Lillard, like that's phenomenal. And then Drew Holiday got traded again, went to the Celtics and won a championship. Yep, you set some things free and sometimes it just bites you in the butt, doesn't it? But you know, that's what happens, right? And so the Bucks picked up Damian Lillard, paired him with Giannis Antetokounmpo. They brought a lot of the rest of the team back and everything. So you're like, okay, wow, there's two like real like go-to guys on this team. You've got a true closer on the team now in Damian Lillard, especially since Chris Middleton had been hurt for a while now. And you had a rookie head coach come in, and that rookie head coach had them going pretty well in terms of their record. All of us were watching the games and going, this coach is not winning them basketball games. Their talent is winning them basketball games. Like, their defense is like in the dirt. Damian Lillard's not playing great. Like, he's scoring points and he's facilitating. He's doing those normal things. His defense still is pretty questionable as well, but like his percentages are pretty in the dump at that point. And like the Giannis, like, Dame combination just is non-existent. We're not seeing some of the basic things that we expect to see out of a Dame and Giannis team. Like, didn't we all just expect some Giannis Dame pick and rolls to happen at the very least, and they just didn't happen? I don't know. There just felt like a couple basic sets that the team could have ran. Didn't run them. The team wasn't looking smooth. They weren't really winning games convincingly, but they were winning games. And then they fired the coach out of nowhere, which, like, whoa, you hired this rookie coach. You had just fired your championship level coach and Coach Bud not long before that, which, like, I'm never going to advocate for someone to be fired, but just watching as someone from the outside, and I'll say that I had some people pretty close within the Bucks organization during these times, and they actually lost their jobs when this last coach got fired. But anyway, when you look at what Bud was doing, I think we were all a little bit confused as well as to what was happening on the court at times. So like there was reasons behind it, right? This team was playing well despite some questionable coaching, but they bring Doc Rivers in, a guy we're all very familiar with, a guy that has put his star players on the outs at times, right? But Doc Rivers overall is regarded as a guy that can usually bring a lot of people together. He's a good authoritative figure, but has the game passed him by, right? I mean, I know this is going to be a lot of comments in my videos talking about Doc Rivers and everything and how we're concerned it's not going to work. I mean, it didn't look great in Doc's time, his short time here, and like, he's correct. It's so hard to take over a team midway through the season. We're going to see what a full offseason looks like for this very talented group of basketball players, and Doc Rivers does have a certain way that he likes to do things, but the questions about him not being able to adjust and maybe being a bit too old-fashioned are concerns that I share with you guys. I mean, look, I came from a college system where I had a coach that was very much like, look, if we just try hard enough and we lock in and believe hard enough and play good enough defense all the time, we're going to be in every single game and we can win every game. And I won a ton of basketball games in college, and that was awesome, right? Like we went very far, we were very successful and everything. There's also times though where it's like, Coach, could you just please drop like a new offense or something like that? And they're just maybe not familiar with that. And I don't think Doc is going to be the most advanced with that stuff. I do feel like the modern game has passed him by a little bit. So it's on him to surround himself with other people that can help complement that well and everything. But that's where we've left off with the Bucks. I mean, they had a gross playoff experience where they got in, Giannis was hurt, and they just lost. I mean, that's plain and simple. It didn't work for them right this time. And so last year, 49-33, still a very respectful record. They were a contending team last year. They're going to be a contending team this year. These are the 4 levels that I have teams choose between. This is a contending team. But let's talk about goals now. Goals are important to talk about before we get into all these other fun tabs in the video, because I want you guys to keep these in the back of your mind as we're going throughout the rest of them. Just kind of some thinking points, right? First things first, maintain the coach if reasonable. This team is paying, like 3 or 4 different coaches to not coach the team at this point. One, I can't believe they got that signed off on and everything. That's just, man, that's a really good way for a front office to get fired, is by doing dumb stuff like this all the time. But like, you can't keep swapping coaches, man. You just can't. Like, I'm telling you, as someone that's been in these locker rooms and everything, that shit is confusing. It's really confusing. It's hard to maintain it. Like, a lot of these guys, you don't have to like teach them like new offensive systems and everything like that. Most of them know the plays and everything at this point. There's a lot of parity in basketball, but when you're going through this many changes of leadership and stuff like that, it just does affect you. You need to take my word for it. It affects you. It's like if you had a new boss to report to every day at work. It's just hard, right? It's hard to find consistency in what your expectations are. It just makes the little things harder. So that's the first thing. Second thing, pretty basic. Figure out Dame and Giannis. These 2 players should play well together. Like, it just makes sense. They should. They complement each other's weaknesses very, very well. There just has to be some simple ways that we just didn't see last year, because I can think of them and I didn't see them, that we have to be able to implement this year and see if it works, right? Somebody's got to figure out how to keep these 2 on the court together and make them play well off each other, because it didn't look great last year. So hopefully we figured that out. And then last thing, let's just add some shooting to this team. We do have some very good shooters on this team, but we could use a little bit more off the bench, and we could use just like some other floor spacers and stuff like that. So we'll make some trades in this video to try to see if we can't find some ways to make a deal in that sense. I'm not going to say it's easy, though. I'm not going to say it's easy, so stay tuned in the video to see why. But anyway, let's talk about their offseason. Alrighty, here is the Milwaukee Bucks offseason in a picture right now. So for those of you new to the series, I break this down into 3 different categories. Drafted players, you guys are smart enough to know what that means. Player departures, guys that were on the full-time roster last year, no longer on the full-time roster. Players brought in, so just other NBA players that have joined the team, whether it's via trade or signing or something else, right? They've joined the team, they're now on the full-time roster. So always best to start off with our drafted players. So the Bucks had 2 draft picks in this. They had a first and a second round pick, and in my opinion, they took these guys in reverse order. In full transparency, that's how I believe it. I know a lot of us were surprised to see AJ Johnson go in the first round of this draft. So for those of you that don't know, AJ Johnson, one of the youngest players in this draft, he's a point guard. He's very, very athletic, but man, is this dude raw. He was playing in Australia last year, the same league as like Alex Sarr. Were they on the same team? I can't remember if they were on the same team or not, but AJ Johnson didn't get a ton of burn there. We saw a lot of raw, like this guy's very young, like he can attack the rim pretty well. He's a good athlete, a lot of turnovers, shooting's not quite there yet. Like he's extremely raw, right? We all knew he's going to be a raw prospect. This isn't an elite draft class to start with, and he's raw even compared to a lot of them. So to see the Bucks take him in the first round was kind of interesting. And sometimes you can justify teams taking these guys in the first round because they want them to get that 4-year contract right away. But now we have the second round exception that exists where you can get guys for 4 years out of like the second round right away. And that's actually what they use on Tyler Smith. So I just didn't understand this draft pick. I didn't feel like you need to take him. I feel like you could have found a player, like a more mature player that could have actually helped to contribute to this championship team right away. And I don't understand. AJ Johnson is most likely not going to be able to help you this year. If I have to eat my words on that at some point, great. I'm rooting for him, but I don't know, man. I haven't seen too many guys this raw come into the league in a while, and I just don't see a way that he gets on the court in meaningful minutes this year. And that just doesn't seem like we needed that on this team right now when there were other guys available. So kind of a weird pick in my mind. I love Tyler Smith in the second round. Tyler Smith is one of those guys with true upside in this class. When we were looking at this draft class and everything, and I did this professionally, right? I did this for a team this year, and like I've done it a lot in the past. you look at guys and you say like, okay, who do I think can really develop into like a true like talent into this league or whatever? And what do I mean by that? Like, I'm talking like true starter, can be an impact player on a basketball team, right? Not even talking star potential, but star potential was low in this draft, at least from my evaluation of it and a lot of other people's as well. But I looked at Tyler Smith and I'm like, there's something here. I can't even quite tell you what it is, but I just like his game. He's very fluid in how he plays. He plays the power forward position. He's about 6'10", can shoot the ball a little bit, can put the ball on the floor a little bit. Pretty good athlete overall. And you're like, okay, this guy's like a 4 right now is how I see him, like a spacing floor that has a good sense of athleticism behind him right now. He was playing in like the G League Ignite and everything. He's one of those type of guys, but you just saw that he had like a better understanding for the game than most of them. He was in the right spots a lot of times defensively and stuff. And like I said, he's just moving around the court well. So you're like, okay, I feel like this guy kind of gets it at the very least, and that's a big thing for him, but he does have just like a good frame on him. He's got a good athletic build. So I'm like, okay, we could turn this guy into something. And I actually think that you could turn him even to like a small forward or something like that. So he's more of a wing instead of a forward, if you will. Like, I think he has the potential to be a guy like that if you develop him correctly. Like, I think he's coordinated enough. So I love the upside of this guy. They got him on a nice contract and everything, got him in the second round. Is he going to be able to contribute this year? Maybe not in itself, but it's at least a little more applicable to see where he could go. And again, he was a second round pick, right? So that's totally fine. These second round picks are important because the Bucks are an expensive team. You need cheap guys to fill out the back end of your salary cap and everything. So that's awesome. I really like that pick. Not as big of a fan of A.J. Johnson, but we'll hope that he works out. Talking about player departures, Malik Beasley is on his way out. He actually stayed in the division, went to Detroit. I was pretty shocked to see them let Malik Beasley go, especially considering like the deal he got and everything. I know they ended up getting, and we'll talk about Gary Trent and everything, very similar type of players, but man, like Malik Beasley was a big part of their team last year. I mean, we can just like look at some of the counting stats last year, 11 points a game. I mean, dude was playing solid enough defense. You're not going to worry about a lot of these other stats. He was mostly on the team to step outside and shoot, but this guy was shooting, where did Malik Beasley go? He was shooting 7 3-pointers a game at a 41% clip. Like, that's really important to have next to like a Giannis, like a Brook Lopez, Damian Lillard. Like, he commanded so much gravity and he got so hot at times last season. And it's kind of weird when Doc came in, like he started playing him less at points too, and I didn't quite understand that either. Doc was tinkering with the lineups in weird ways, man, that I didn't quite understand either. But Malik Beasley was a really nice piece for them last year, so he's on the way out. That's unfortunate. Pat Bev, obviously he's going overseas and everything. You just lose like an identity with a guy like that, and that sucks, right? It sucks to see a guy like that go, but is what it is. More than recognizable names here. Jay Crowder, obviously a bit of a journeyman, hasn't been picked up by anybody yet. Maybe past his day, but I mean, what did Jay Crowder's stats look like for this team in his short time? 6 points a game. He was shooting okay from 3. I mean, obviously he's getting older. He's not the defensive player he once was, so maybe it's just time for Jay to hang it up. Maybe someone picks him up. You had Gallinari on the team for a little bit. Gallinari's damn near just playing center at this point, like a spacing center, because he's pretty immobile at this point. He hasn't been picked up necessarily either, so you lose Gallinari. And then Thanasis. We all know Thanasis and the memes and everything like that. He's not currently picked up by the team or anything like that, so I'm led to believe that he's not going to be on it right now, because technically the roster's full. They could lose a roster spot because one player's contract isn't guaranteed, but I'd be shocked if they let him go. So as of right now, Thanasis is not going to be on the team this year, so I know a lot of people have said, like, Giannis just plays better when he has Thanasis around and everything, so I don't know. But overall, the departures, like, you had 3 really not impact guys. Say what you will about Thanasis, I guess, and whatever impact he necessarily had. Pat Bev was an attitude guy, and Malik Beasley was a nice starter for this team last year. But who'd they bring in? They actually brought in some good names. Taurean Prince, that's a great name for them to bring in, first of all. 3-and-D wing, right? 3-and-D wings, we all know how important they are to basketball teams and everything. Everything that he does, I mean, and everything that he was able to do for the Lakers. Lakers really thought he was a savior at one point last year, and they played him probably a bit too much, and it wasn't very effective at points, but Taurean Prince is a nice player. So you look at Taurean Prince from last season, and, like, honestly, this is what you expect a shooting chart to look like, right? It's very 3 or to the paint, right, which is a good thing. I mean, he knows how to play winning basketball. He's been on some very good winning teams with good winning players before. He's going to bring you a lot of size, some good defense, right? He's good from the wings, which is good. So when players are driving and kicking out to him, he's effective from there. The corners, he was obviously getting the shots up. They just weren't necessarily falling last year, but at least we're in the right spots. I mean, you're going to get even more openings with Giannis and Dame on the court than you were even last year with LeBron and AD. You just are. So that's effective. And he got to the rim well. Like, he's getting close to the rim, which is important. He's just not finishing that well right now, which again, Hopefully with more people creating different senses of gravity for you, hopefully it goes a little better, but we'll be concerned just in the sense that, like, what kind of system are the Bucks going to run, right? We just don't know. We didn't see Doc really implement something like that. He was so defensive focused, which is important for this group. That should be their identity, but I don't know. But nonetheless, I like the Taurean Prince signing a lot. Even more so, they brought on Gary Trent, who has just been a great shooter throughout his entire career. I mean, last year, Gary Trent was like an above 40% three-point shooter as well. So in theory, he replaces Malik Beasley. Gary Trent Jr.'s defensive numbers did fall off like a cliff last year, which who knows, maybe that's just Toronto and kind of the weird thing that they had going on last year. But traditionally, he's a pretty solid defender, like, overall. So, I don't know. It just kind of fell off a cliff this last, like, maybe season and a half or something like that. So, hopefully he can kind of pick that back up because that's going to be important. But it is good to have a shooter at that position because you needed one that has some starter qualities. And, I mean, dude's historically been able to get you 15, 16 points a game if you really want him to. So, we'll see what we can do. And then DeLon Wright, who was just a very quality backup guard in the NBA last year, most recently played on the Heat, played some good defense and stuff. So that's a nice kind of contrasting guard to have next to Damian Lillard, a guy that can come in, bring a little bit of size, bring a little bit of defense. I mean, DeLon Wright shot pretty well from the field last year, if I remember as well. Let me pull up old DeLon Wright really quick. Yeah, 36-37%. It's on low volume, but he's still hitting nonetheless. So we absolutely take that out of DeLon Wright. So overall, you brought in 3 guys that can be impact rotation players for you, which is good. They've got a good amount of NBA experience. That's awesome. That's what you want from your contending team. You drafted a big question mark, and obviously a more so of a prominent question mark, if you will. Again, neither of them probably going to be immediate contributors to this team. It's fine. It's not the biggest deal in the world. And you didn't have like a horrible offseason by any means. You didn't lose anybody too crazy important. Again, I think Malik Beasley worked for this team, so I was a little bit bummed to see that one happen, but, you know, is what it is. But all right, let's go talk about the rest of the roster now. Alrighty, y'all. Y'all know this is my favorite tab on the entire workbook. This is basically my ideal off-season spreadsheet. It's a good way to kind of see a couple different things going on with the team. One, you can see like the current roster breakdown and everything, all the salaries, all the options, everything. See what kind of assets we're working with on the team itself. We can see their actual salary cap table and the different levels to it. I know, a lot of red going on here. We'll talk about it. We can see their draft picks, which looks a little bit scary right now, but again, we'll talk about that. Then overall, just a depth chart, being able to be like, okay, what kind of players are we working with? Where are the potential holes on this team and everything? I think that's an important thing to look at because at the end of this, we'll mock out some trades and everything and see if we can't fix some of these things. What kind of options do they have to move? So that's what this team's working with right now. Let's start off with the draft picks because, yeah, that's something. Now, it should always be noted, some picks not listed have like protections and things like that. That means like some of the things not listed here are like swap rights or things like that, right? Or something else, like they have a protection on it in some instance, but otherwise, this is what the team's working with right now. We have a 2031 first and a 2031 second. We are down to the bare minimum for this team. This team has made a lot of deals to bring players in. I mean, bringing Drew Holiday in was an expensive thing. Bringing Damian Lillard in was an expensive thing, right? I mean, it's just been hard for this team, right? They've made little deals in the past to move up in drafts and things like that, right? They're pretty much out of draft assets at this point. There's just nothing they can really do to help themselves with that at this point. There are ways to get around like trading more protections and things like that and swap rights still. While the NBA says explicitly you really can't do that, there are actual ways to do it. We even saw the Heat do it like just last year or whatever. It's just incredibly complicated to do, so we shouldn't bank on it. Let's talk about the salary cap now because this one's not great either. But anyway, this is a contending team. This is what you're going to see more often than not. So for those of you that don't know, 4 levels to the NBA salary cap, right? I break them down much more in depth into all the little implications of them in the first video or 2 in this series. So if you want to watch those, it's the Celtics and Grizzlies videos. Go back and watch those, right? And you should be watching all these videos. Go watch them all. They're all unique in their own way because they're all different teams. But anyway, here's a quick breakdown for you guys. Cap line in general is just a basic thing to understand in all sports. There's a cap, right? Once you cross this, you can only sign players to like minimum contracts and stuff like that. Unless the player was already on your team, you can always bring back your own player for like as much as you want. Then we have a luxury tax line. As you can see, this one's at 0, so we've already crossed this one as well. Once the luxury tax hits 0, or you've crossed it, your team's going to get a lot more expensive to operate. So this team's going to be expensive. Then we have the first and second apron. These are 2 newer things brought to the NBA because the NBA is sick of your star players being traded all the time. Damian Lillard, right? And things like that. So the NBA had a problem where they were seeing players getting traded too much. It's not good for fan retention and things like that. You're even seeing college basketball being like, oh, we're kind of sick of players being traded all the time. It's hard for fans to get attached to teams, and we need them attached to teams at the end of the day. We can sell teams. We can't always sell players quite as much, even though like the marketing in basketball is technically very player oriented. It's different depending on the lens you're looking through it with. But regardless, the aprons were put in place to basically tell the championship level teams, aka the expensive teams, to be like, all right, if you're going to be this expensive and you're going to be a championship level team, we're going to lock your team down. We're going to make it really hard for you to trade people. So once you start crossing these aprons, they start taking away your rights to do a lot of different trade things. So the Bucks find themselves past the second apron by about $4.5 million, which means they have the most possible restrictions on them. Key things to keep in mind: they can't take on any more player salary, any extra. They can only go down in salary from here. That's all they can do, right? The only place to go is down, which limits you in trades in itself. You also can't package players together to go and get like a single player. They're taking away your ability to do that, right? So you can't package players together to match salary. Nope, you have to get the same amount of players back. You also can't play in like the buyout markets and stuff, and a bunch of other things. You can't send cash as a part of trades, right? You can't use the mid-level exception anymore. It's extremely restrictive, right? So this team is a lot of ways locked into what it has, right? They're going to make it extremely hard for you to make deals. I'm personally a fan of this. I think it's good for basketball, but I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts as always. But yeah, the Bucks find themselves past the second apron. It's going to be very, very hard for them to execute on a lot of this stuff. All right, with all that being said, let's take a look at the rest of the roster. Obviously, Damian Lillard, we talked about him and his season a little bit. We talked about the ups and downs of things. He did start to find his groove a little bit more. I mean, we can take a look at like his actual numbers in and of itself if we go over here to like Basketball Reference. You got 24 points a game out of him, 7 assists, right? 4 rebounds. The turnovers were definitely high. Turnovers were just high amongst the star players in general on this team last year. 35% from three, not great. A lot of attempts, like it's not bad either, but he was pretty poor to start the season, and he kind of picked things up, so he kind of leveled out by the end of the year, if you will. It just doesn't look great overall. I mean, we could take a look at like his true shooting chart in and of itself, but like I don't think you're going to see anything out of the ordinary. You're just seeing a lot of Damian Lillard long threes that went in, hit some game-winning shots, had some real big moments for this team, some real Dame time type shit, right? That's what Dame brings to this team, and overall, we just expect to see a better, more organized team. It didn't necessarily feel like a Dame problem as much as just like there was a lack of coordination on the team somewhere, right? Giannis, great as always, right? Obviously got hurt at an unfortunate time for them, but he's one of the best players we have in basketball, right? The three-point shot isn't a thing necessarily, but he's one of the most physically dominant players we've seen since Shaq. Like, I don't need to explain Giannis Antetokounmpo to you anymore. He's one of the best we have in the business. Defense is still awesome. Should play great together. They should. It shouldn't be too complicated. Chris Middleton came back from a lot of injuries last year and honestly, overall, had a decent season. There's definitely points where it's looking like he's slowing down a little bit, and that's to be expected. I mean, he's 32. He's had a lot of injuries, right? But still got you 15 points a game, shot well from three on good attempts. We hope with finally a full offseason under his belt where he was just kind of able to get his body right and everything. We hope that we'll see a little bit of a renaissance of Chris Middleton. He's one of the more consistent players we have in this game, and if you ask a lot of players, they'll tell you he's one of the hardest players to guard in basketball. He's sneaky, just so efficient at his game. Brook Lopez, still nice player defensively. The three-point shot was actually pretty good last year overall, too. I mean, we go over to Brook Lopez here, 36, 37%, 5 attempts a game. The drop coverage is something that they didn't start out necessarily doing, and that's Brook Lopez's kind of bread and butter. And then they tried to go back to it, and Doc was messing with some other things again. And, you know, Brook was definitely seeming a little frustrated out there at points, but this is a championship level center for this team. He's a really nice basketball player. We all know how good Brook Lopez is. Bobby Portis, obviously a super six man for this team, a real attitude bringer. Bobby Portis shot the shit out of the basketball last season, right? Where's Bobby at? Yeah, 40% threes per game last year, 13, 14 points, 7.5 rebounds. I mean, Bobby Portis is awesome. You've got a lot of really good players here at the top, and they make up a lot of your salary cap just in and of itself. The last semi-expensive player on the team is Pat Connaughton, who he's played rough the past like couple seasons. The shot is not falling right now. Pat Connaughton's just supposed to be a floor spacer for this team who's a sneaky good athlete. We're only getting 34, 35% right now on what should be like a real sharpshooter. Oh, where did my shooting website go? Oh no. And yeah, this was Pat Connaughton's shooting chart last year. This is not what you want to see from your sharpshooter, man. Like it's unfortunate that like because that's your job, right? You have to do your job well, and I don't have an excuse for it. I mean, these guys can bounce back at any time, and they're professionals, right? But you just can't have this, right? You can't have this. You're paying him too much money to be a sharpshooter. You need a guy like that on the team. He has a player option, so he's probably not going anywhere, but man, I don't know. You got to do something about that. You got to do something about that. We talked about AJ Johnson already. Marjon Beauchamp has a team option at the end of this year. First round pick of theirs from a couple years ago. Haven't really seen much out of him yet. He's supposed to kind of be like how do we want to describe Beauchamp? He's a really long athlete, right? I haven't seen him do a ton else that I'm incredibly impressed with. I wasn't too high on him coming in. I hope the best for him, but he hasn't quite found a way to crack the rotation yet. We're not really sure what his niche is supposed to be, but he's a cool athlete to have on the team. So I don't know. I'm not sure we're going to see much of Beauchamp this season necessarily either. Talked about Gary Trent already. AJ Green, sneaky guy that's still on the team. He could be your Pat Connaughton type player, and man, did Doc Rivers love playing this guy. I didn't necessarily think he needed to be on the court. His defense is pretty rough. People really attack him when he's on the court, especially in playoffs when teams have time to prepare for him, but shoots the basketball well, 40%, three threes a game. If you gave him more minutes, like he's probably going to get more threes up. So he's a shooting option for you on the team. Talked about Taurean Prince, DeLon Wright a little bit. Andre Jackson Jr., a rookie for them last year. I love Andre Jackson Jr. I thought that they should have played him a lot more last year. Doc stopped playing him, and now his offensive game is extremely limited. He doesn't shoot the ball much at all, and I'm talking like anywhere on the court. Like he's a guy much like Ben Shepherd was for the Pacers, where he was just playing smart basketball out of there. Like he's not forcing anything. He's very much like, okay, I got the ball. It's my job to get it back to like Giannis or Dame or something like that, right? He's keeping the offense moving, which is awesome. I love guys like that. His defense was great, though. He's playing full court defense. He's running up and down the floor with people. We all saw the one crazy dunk he had. Like he's a great athlete. I think you could really develop him into something. He only shot like, I think it was like 0.5 threes per game or something last year. Where was he? Well, yeah, we got 0.8 threes, but he hit 37% of them. So I look at his form and it looks fine to me. Like I don't see why we couldn't try to up the volume. I mean, he was just a rookie last year, so he got plenty of room to grow. I like him a lot. Only 900K is actually guaranteed, so that's why I was saying if you did want to free up a roster spot, you could easily get rid of him. I'd personally like to try to make this guy grow. You got 3 years and he's super cheap for a long time, so I like him a lot. Chris Livingston, he's a wing that they have on this team that we just don't, he hasn't played much. I don't know what to tell you about him. He just doesn't play much. So he's riding the end of the bench right now. I believe he's on like the second round exception maybe as well. That doesn't look like a second round exception salary though. What is Chris Livingston on for a contract? Oh, it is a second round exception. Interesting. Is Tyler Smith not on it? He is. Why is it less? Oh, it's just because he's in his second year. I'm stupid. Leave me alone. All right. But yeah, so I don't know what to do with Chris Livingston either. He just hasn't been on the court much. So shout out the Bucks, man, for finding how many guys is this? Like all but like 6 of their players are like extreme minimum contract guys, and a decent amount of these guys can play NBA minutes. So shout out the GM for making it work, because I think you have a better bench than you did last season, but it's complicated nonetheless. So if we take a look at just the depth chart overall, looking at the point guard spot, feel pretty good about your starter and your backup. Again, they contrast each other pretty well to give you different looks, which is nice. It's nice to have just a competent backup point guard behind Dame. AJ, again, not sure we're going to see much of him this year. He's going to take a while to develop. Could be an interesting project, though. At the shooting guard spot, you've got a shooter, you got another shooter, and then you have a maybe shooter. All very similar players, smaller 2 guards or whatever that maybe aren't going to be the greatest defensively, and that's why I say it'd be nice if you could find another 3-and-D type player to kind of throw in this rotation, but for the time being, not bad options. And by the way, we're going to talk about Pat Connaughton and his contract. He's one of the few guys on this team that, as we said, we can't go down in salary, or we can only go down in salary, and Pat Connaughton could be a way that we could go get another impact player that's still like solid and still go down in salary. So we'll explore that a little bit. We look at the forward spot. I feel really good about Chris Middleton and Andre Jackson Jr. Beauchamp and Livingston are huge question marks. Not even sure if they're necessarily like NBA level talents right now. So got some question marks there. That's why I start to say, like, if we could add like some shooting or like someone else at the forward spot that's a little more reliable, because even like Andre, right? Like you're not getting a ton of offense out of him right now, but at least he's good on one side of the ball. I feel like there's room to grow there. Looking at the power forward, you got Giannis, you got Taurean Prince. Really like both of them, obviously. I mean, I'd be shocked if you didn't like Giannis. And then Tyler Smith, I think, is a good project that could surprise people this year, but we'll see. And obviously, you feel great about your centers, right? So What do we need? We need some more like wings on this team, right? I mean, some of the last couple guys on this team are a little bit like questionable, right? And so not quite sure what we can do with them. I don't think you necessarily want to trade them. I don't know what the point of trading a Chris Livingston would necessarily be. I mean, you could always cut him and then just sign someone as like a just a free agent, but you're not going to be in the buyout market, so you have to sign someone that already exists. Like, I feel like a Doug McDermott or something like that could be good for this team. Just a guy that's been around for a while. You know he's going to be a good shooter. I'd rather have Doug McDermott than Chris Livingston. That's just how I feel about it, right? Probably more than Beauchamp as well, but probably not going to cut Beauchamp because he was a first-round pick that long ago, and so that's up for the Bucks to decide. But anyway, let's go talk about some potential trade ideas that we could do with this team. Let's try to do something with this Pat Connaughton contract. Let's assume that he's not going to be a good shooter and he's just the most obvious guy to trade on the team. So let's try to make it work. All right, y'all, it's actually been like 2 hours since that last cut. I had the internet people show up. I had to take a couple meetings. It's whatever. We're back here on Fanspo, and we're trying to trade Pat Connaughton. I know, it's the simplest thing to do, right? It makes the most sense. I think there's a really simple one right off the bat, which could just be like a Pat Connaughton for Javon Carter swap. We've seen Javon Carter have some success with this group already. Where is Javon Carter? You move him over to the Bucks. They save a little bit of money. Pat Connaughton goes over to the Bulls. They need less point guards and more guys that can potentially shoot. They can absorb the contract. There we go. Simple, easy. 1, 2, 3. That trade just makes a lot of sense, right? I feel like that's just beneficial for both sides. The Bucks get a player that they can use a little bit more at a position in need, and Pat Connaughton they can save a little money, right? Pat Connaughton helps the Bulls out a little bit, but that doesn't address the shooter at the wing thing. So here's what I kind of want to do. I started out by looking on here because we can only go down in salary or match it perfectly, right? So here's Pat Connaughton at $9.4 million, right? Looking at everybody else's salary, everybody else below we can go and get, right? And so I'm looking for wings, and a lot of times you're not going to see wings at this position. Something I saw was Cody Martin, which is, I think, a kind of interesting move. You could go get somebody like him, right? I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Cody versus Caleb. I mean, the three-point shot's not quite there, but again, it's a more established wing, and maybe he finds himself when he's in a better organization. I think that's a potential idea. I don't think you have a way of getting Jayshawn Tate. I mean, Jayshawn Tate would be a great guy for this team to pick up, but you don't really have the draft capital to maybe do it unless they want that last second round pick. Then maybe, but otherwise, like, I'm just looking through, like, are you able to get a Kenny Hustle or something for a Pat Connaughton? I can't imagine that that's something that they'd really be interested in. Like a Dean Wade, I find that one a little bit hard to believe as well. John Conchar would be great for Milwaukee, but I just don't see it happening. Man, Corey Kispert would be great for this team, but I don't necessarily see that one either. I don't know. I'm looking through here, and like, this is the thing with the aprons, right? We know the aprons are working because these trades they're hard to make, right? And I'm trying to be somewhat realistic with these at the end of the day. Like, Trey Mann's not getting moved. Like, obviously, like a Jalen Williams isn't being moved or something, and now we're starting to get into some less quality players or like the rookies and stuff like that, and that's just not happening. And again, it's hard to find wings. It's really hard to find wings because, like, the wings are getting paid, right? They're getting paid. Ooh, Amir Coffey. That's interesting. Do you think that the Clippers would do something like this? Like, and this is a very similar setup or whatever, but Amir Coffey would be a nice player to add to this team. So do you think they could do something as simple as this and then a Pat Connaughton swap? You include like a second round pick or something like that over to the Clippers. You do something like that. Clippers they need to cut another 1.2 million. Okay, do you have someone else that you want to gift to us then? There's no way they're doing like Bones or anything like that. They're not throwing him in. I don't see them necessarily throwing in another one of these guys. Yeah, see, that one's just kind of dead in the water in itself, because now we have to give up more assets. It doesn't make sense. I don't know, y'all. I don't see a lot of other things that make sense. Ooh, Torrey Craig would actually make sense. That's actually a better trade than the one we even drew up for like Javon Carter. So I mean, you guys understand where this is going. It's just kind of the same thing. Trade him there. Javon Carter, or not Javon Carter, Torrey Craig would come over. That's more of like a wing that could help you out right away. So that trade can work. I like that. The Bucks could also try to play like facilitator in like a bigger deal. Maybe I'll try to make something like that happen. Does this work? This doesn't work either. I need just a little bit more money. That's where I grab Maxwell Lewis. If this is actually in the video right now, that means I'm very close to making this work. Oh my God, I figured it out. Okay, yeah, no, I went down a rabbit hole. I know a lot of you guys find yourselves going down these rabbit holes on Fanspo where you try to make a little trade work and then all of a sudden it turns into a 4-teamer. just hold off for a second. We got those same players over to Milwaukee. We sold Pat Connaughton, but everyone else got involved somehow. I don't know why this happened. I guess I could have just done something like this to like begin with and maybe thrown some picks in there. That would have made a lot more sense. But somehow I created this. You can look at it and let me know what you think of it. It's not going to happen, but it happened here. And so just know that it's possible. Okay. That's all I need you guys to know, but okay. I need to leave fanspo. I'm going to go talk about rotations now. All right. Rotation screen. Here we are. I always put a question mark on it just because like, look, who knows what their rotation's actually going to be. I'm not in the coaches meetings at all, but this is an activity that I would always do with other coaches and stuff when I was coaching, be like, okay, where do we kind of want guys minutes to average out to this year, right? What are we kind of looking for? And so this is kind of an activity for that to get a sense as to what we're doing. So let's start with the starting five. That's a good place always. 32 minutes, Damian Lillard, one of our best players, right? Gary Trent Jr. getting about 29, still under 30, just because we're not sure about him defensively and stuff. We'd like to find a way if we can get guys like Andre Jackson Jr. out there, maybe DeLon Wright even at times, kind of see if we can continue to kind of find that defense of this team, because that's got to be the identity, but still a good amount of minutes because of his shooting. Chris Middleton's getting older. We'll ramp his minutes up come playoff time, so under 30 for now. Giannis, 33, easy, right? Brook Lopez just under 30 as well. Again, getting up there in age, try to slow him down a little bit, especially when we have a Bobby Portis that can play starter type minutes at the 25 as well. Taurean Prince, not far behind Bobby Portis. We definitely kind of want him as that next guy, that 3-and-D wing. Awesome. Andre Jackson Jr., want to keep developing him. He could be a very valuable asset to this team. Just a guy that can get up and down the floor and hustle and stuff like that. We saw how valuable it was for the Pacers, who ultimately helped them meet their demise last year. Need a guy like that out there. DeLon Wright is out there playing basically whenever Damian Lillard's not, at least for the time being. But again, I'd like to experiment with them on the court together. Pat Connaughton getting some cleanup minutes. If he can find a way to shoot, I'm happy to give him more minutes. But otherwise, we have AJ Green as another option we can throw out there. And we've got a bunch of young guys in Beauchamp, Smith, Livingston, and I got Johnson here at the bottom. But if we go and take a look at like their actual lineup numbers last year, you know, where did things start to go wrong? That's my curiosity, right? So a lot of the teams, or a lot of the lineups that they used, at least like in bulk, were good, right? I mean, what is this one here? This is Damian Lillard with Connaughton, Beasley, Giannis, Lopez. So Lillard with Giannis and shooters works. You had a good defensive center in Lopez. Not surprised that one worked, right? This is the same thing, but with Bobby Portis. So again, shooters around Giannis and Damian Lillard works. What do we got here? We got Dame, Beasley, Middleton. Yep, their starting five from last year was really good. Same concept. Going down here, Brook Lopez with Lillard, Crowder, Beasley on Antetokounmpo. Same concept, right? We know Jay Crowder was spotting up in the corner that whole time. That's what he does. Where do things start to go like negative in any sort of like interesting instance? So you have Pat Bev with Connaughton and AJ Green. That's a big lack of ball handling lineup here with Bobby Portis and Giannis, so that doesn't necessarily surprise me. This one is the only other one with decent time behind it, and it's Lillard with Crowder, Beasley, Antetokounmpo, and Portis. That's weird. That's like such a slight variation. So like, what's kind of the main difference here? I guess it's just Crowder instead of I don't know, somebody else like a Pat Connaughton or something, because people were still closing out on Connaughton last year. He didn't become like, nobody was ever just going to let him shoot. So that's kind of interesting that was a difference maker. If we go down to like the three-man rotation here, I mean, what do we start to see? I mean, Lillard, Giannis, Lopez. I'm not surprised that one has a lot of minutes behind it and it's productive. Lillard, Middleton, Giannis at the top. That's great. Your best three players are your three most productive when on the court together. That's a great start to things. You do see Beasley when you throw him in there, right? And you see Beasley up here in the top five as well. And this one had a ton of minutes. So Lillard, Giannis, and Beasley. Like, see, that's the data backing that up, y'all. And again, Lillard, Middleton, Beasley, Giannis, Lopez, Beasley. Like, obviously, a lot of it's the starting five, but Beasley was a big part of it, man. That's why Gary Trent's going to have his work cut out for him this year. Like, he's got to replace that because that lineup worked. I don't know why they stopped going away, or they started to go away from it at points, but I don't know, man. You see Beasley in a lot of these top three-man combinations. I think they're going to miss that guy. I really do think they're going to miss him, but they do have some good depth otherwise on this team, right? I mean, we just look at it, and I feel really good about Bobby Portis. Like, Gary Trent is a fine replacement. I don't think he's quite as good, but I like him. Like, I like Taurean Prince a lot. I like Andre Jackson Jr. a lot. I trust DeLon Wright. If we can get a shooter out of just one of these guys, I'd feel great with it, but otherwise, like, it's not a bad rotation. You've got a great starting five at the end of the day, so you feel great about that. So much of it is maximizing Lillard and Giannis, and we already see that it was working, right? Like, we know that it was working. It's just, you know, how do we maximize it, right? So anyway, let's go talk about predictions. Alrighty, y'all, here we are, the predictions screen. Not too many left, just 4 of them left here, and one of them we're about to do right now in the Bucks. So a little bit of an East recap, right? We're always doing that in these videos. We got the Celtics and Knicks up top. Haven't seen anyone disagree with that. We got the Sixers and Pacers as 2 clear playoff teams. Yeah, you know, hit or miss with some people on those. We have our play-in established now. Heat, Magic, Raptors, Hawks, Bulls, Hornets on the outside, or just looking outside. I've seen some people kind of say, like, these 4 teams are pretty interchangeable. I'd agree with you on that. Pistons, Wizards, Nets, clearly on the outside. I've seen nobody fight me on those. So, you know, that's great, I guess. But where do we have the Bucks? Do we have them at 6? Do we have them at 3? It's a big difference, right? I mean, these 2 teams would actually end up playing each other, wouldn't they? But where do we have them? 3 or 6? Because I know this is going to stir some up. Do I have the Cavs at 3 or the Bucks? Both of these teams could very well be here. Drum roll, please. Drum roll, drum roll, drum roll. I've got them as a 3. That's right. I've got them here. I just look, because here come the comments. I know. Just listen to the rationale quick, and then you can comment. Okay, just calm down. Put the keyboard down. It's all good. Everybody's safe right now. You have Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. This should work. It just should work. And we saw it work at points. It's just like they just need to do such simple things to get it rolling. Do I think Doc will be able to do it? I like to think so. I just like to think that these players are smart enough. Like, you've just got so many smart vets here that you'll be able to make it work with a tough-minded coach that will hold people accountable in Doc Rivers. Am I a little bit concerned come playoff time that they'll be able to adjust to things again? Yes, and that's why I was a little bit confused by the Doc signing at first. Like, I understood you wanted somebody that was more established and had more of his coaching voice figured out. But I'm like, you might as well have just kept Bud then. Like, it's kind of the same, like, issues and strengths, right? And so I don't know. That's my concern at the end of the day. But Doc is a good coach at the end of the day. He does know what he's talking about for the most part. I do worry if the game's past him a little bit, but this is such a loaded team, man. You got 2 really good defensive centers. You have Giannis. You have Dame. Like, Gary Trent's a really nice basketball player. Chris Middleton's still a good player. You've got some young guys off the bench that should be able to help you in some instances, right? So I'm feeling pretty good about having the Bucks at a 3 seed. I personally think they'll be higher than the Sixers and the Pacers. But I could see all of it swapping. I could see, like, all 5 of these teams. I mean, you guys know who's going where at this point. But I don't know. I could see a lot of flip-flopping between these couple seeds here. I just could. But that's just me at the end of the day. This is where I hand it off to you guys. As always, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. We're bringing these videos to you guys 5 times a week right now. But we're almost to the end, which means preseason is almost upon us, and we can start talking about real basketball again. I know the views are low right now, but all my sweats are here with me, and we're talking hoops. So I'm glad that you guys do this. Thank you, as always, for spending your mornings with me, and we'll talk to you guys later. Thanks so much.